I'm Shane.
And I'm Bo.
We are your Kentucky Fried Critics.
Welcome back, everybody. This is our 5th episode now.
This is officially 5. We've done this for over a month now. This will come out and be 1 month, 1 week since we started.
It's been a good month.
It's been fun.
It's been super fun.
Even if we don't have a ton of people listening, I love all of you that are.
No, the people that are listening are listening all the way through.
Yeah, but it's fun for me either way. I just have fun getting to talk about movies. Yeah. And if some people also want to listen to me talk about movies, that's awesome. Because I do like to listen to me talk about movies.
Oh, yeah. Me too. I talk about movies to myself sometimes. Just sitting. Just like self, we're going to talk about this movie.
This is why we're good at this. We've
been training our whole lives
just to talk about movies to anybody that'll listen. And even when no one is.
Yeah. We had a beer. What's our beer this week? It is the Country Boy Brewing's Prime Directive. It's a double dry hopped New England IPA. Now, what possible movie could that be from? The Prime Directive.
Star Trek.
No, really?
Yeah. We had a few people get this right.
Yay.
On social media.
Good people. Smart people.
Yeah. Now, no one did guess completely. They didn't get the movie, right? Because right now, we are not still doing just a topic yet. Again, plans in the future are sometimes that we might do just a topic, but we're still getting our
wings.
Yeah, we're still learning how to do all of this, and a movie is a nice little bit of a crutch for us to always get ourselves back, make sure we can talk for a solid hour or better on a subject.
Thousands of them.
But now Star Trek, again, there are a lot, so no one guessed the exact movie, which again, so far we told you it's Star Trek.
Saw a lot of Wrath of Khans.
I saw a couple of Wrath of Khan guesses. I've seen we did have someone went Picardy. They said Picardy, which I love that as a word. Like rhymes with Bacardi. Yeah. Picardy.
That's Patrick Stewart's new drink line.
Yeah. And that is definitely correct. We are definitely doing something Picardy. This is we're going to be doing First Contact. So that is the first true Next Generation movie, right? Because Generations is technically the Bridge the Gap movie.
Yeah, because it's got the old crew and
the new crew, and they're working together. Yeah, and so this is the first one where they were like, no,
solid next gen.
These guys can totally carry a movie on their own. We don't need Bo, right?
Yeah.
This movie was 2 years after the series ended.
I think so. Yeah,
96, right?
This because as soon as they wrapped on the show, they started filming Generations, and then
this. Yeah. So really, we've gone very little time without them on screen, despite the movie kind of playing to us for like nostalgia, like we've not seen them in a long time. In the very beginning, like a lot of the scenes are just like, oh man, it's been so long. They even play that to Worf, and Worf was still on Deep Space Nine when this was going on, so we still saw him week to week.
Yeah, he was on the Defiant. It's like, we saw him yesterday. He did this.
Now, again, we're not going to assume that everybody that listens to us are Star Trek fans. We are both sci-fi dorks. We grew up sci-fi dorks. I got it from my mom.
I got it from my Aunt Tammy.
But we've both been huge sci-fi people since very young.
Like 2 years old.
Yeah, very young.
When I get in trouble for trying to play with Tammy's Star Wars toys.
I definitely watched Next Generation first run when I was like 5 years old on the couch with my mom, for sure. So I don't want to assume that everybody understands why Prime Directive is an automatic Star Trek reference. So we need to go into that just a little bit. So
what is the Prime Directive?
The Prime Directive is Star Trek's answer for why you don't just interact with everybody you run into. Yeah. Right? Like in the Federation, in Starfleet, you follow the Prime Directive, which says that you can't interact with any alien race until they're at a certain technological advancement level.
Usually until they've discovered warp
technology.
And then you're like, okay, we can talk to you now.
There are a few exceptions in the franchise, and usually the exception is just that they still understand that there is spacefaring
out there. Because there's like a species that they just do like super awesome medicine, right?
Yeah, well, and then there's some that created the kind of like long-range sensors where they knew there was something out there, but they just never came up with the technology to be able to propulsion. Out there. Yeah. So there are exceptions, but generally speaking, the rule is the hard and fast rule is
we'll talk to you when you can do
when you can fly, when you can go faster than light, when you can travel to the stars. Because until you can do that, you're not really traveling to the stars.
Yeah, it would take you be able to leave your solar system.
Yeah, because before that, you'd be like a generational ship. right? Like it would literally be the whole families. The people who get to the people who get to the destination would not be the people who
No,
left.
they died 1,000 years ago, and the ship looks nothing like how it started.
I think in Star Trek, the rule would be that you can't interfere with those people. Like yes, they are in a ship, but they are not the kind of stuff that you're supposed to. Because again, they are not at that advancement yet.
I would believe not. I would think the Prime Directive would be like, well, I mean, even though they're calling for help, I mean...
No, I wanted to look this up.
Signal?
Distress signals are one of the things that can let you override that in certain key situations. Now, we're not going to dork out over the Prime Directive too much on the intricacies. Again, we're obviously dorking out a little bit on the Prime Directive, but it's not the intricacies of the Prime Directive.
So boiled down, it's don't interfere with races that haven't developed enough.
Any of our Trekkies might be arguing amongst themselves right now about whether or not this is the perfect movie to use for Prime Directive, because technically we are kind of skating around ideas of the Prime Directive with this movie, as opposed to some movies that are blatantly about the Prime Directive. I'm looking at you, Insurrection.
Yeah.
Again, though, that's not my favorite movie. No. I've probably seen it more than others because it was more of a popular movie when it released for some reason.
I like it. It plays like a really long episode.
It does, as opposed to this
TNG.
one.
This one feels like an action movie.
This feels like a movie.
Yeah.
And that's what I was going to say. Like, that one feels like an episode. A long episode, but an episode.
Like a three-parter.
The Prime Directive, we're skating around it, but it definitely is central in several aspects. And so again, this movie definitely, we deal with that in a weird roundabout way. We'll get to that when we're actually talking about the movie a little bit more, because that is kind of the key premise.
Yeah.
Again, the movie barely says Prime Directive. I think they name drop it 2 times. So like I said, this movie kind of skates around the idea, but it does technically deal with the Prime Directive, despite the fact that nobody's name dropping it, which is weird. Next Generation loved name dropping
the Prime Directive.
This movie does deal with what later Star Trek would dub the temporal Prime Directive, which is that if you know of something that is interfering with time, it is your obligation to do everything in your power to make sure the original timeline stays intact.
We have to preserve the original timeline.
In this movie, and we'll get into it more because we're dorks once we start talking about everything that's actually in the movie, this movie definitely deals more heavily with the temporal Prime Directive than the Prime Directive for several reasons.
Because when we go back in time,
I don't want to go too far into it. I just wanted to make sure everybody understood, for any non-Trekkies, why Prime Directive is connected. Important. Yeah, because again, if you don't know Star Trek, you might not understand why we're like Prime Directive, Star Trek. Like every Trekkie was instantly like,
Star Trek, instant.
But again, one of the guesses we had on social media was RoboCop. Did you see that one?
Oh, that's right. He does have Prime Directives, doesn't he? That's a good guess. Do you think anybody will notice if we reuse this later on down the road?
We just wait long enough.
If we wait long enough, just bring it back.
Exactly.
Do RoboCop.
Now, that guy did also guess Star Trek, so it's not like it was out of...
It was like RoboCop. Nope, try again. Star Trek. There you go.
Let's go ahead and cover all the people who were in the movie to kick us off.
You want to start at the top, or you want to do the director first?
Yeah, I guess we can start with the director. Again, these are all going to be names for all of our Trekkie fans.
Yeah, they're going to pop for them.
Everybody knows these. We're not... These are not revelations for people who are Star Trek fans. These are not revelations for most non-Star Trek fans.
Yeah, you have to have at least heard of these people.
Well, and know that they're in it.
Yeah.
Just because you don't watch it doesn't mean you're ignorant to its existence. So we'll start with the director. Bo makes this reference for an obvious reason. Our director is also one of our cast.
Yep.
This is, I don't know. I think it might be his debut. This is Jonathan Frakes.
Yeah, this is his first director.
Of a film or ever? Do you know?
No, he directed some episodes of the show.
That's what I thought. Yeah. So this is his first
movie.
Yeah.
Big. And he did a great job.
Big
movie.
Directorial debut. Yeah. And so
they gave him a bunch of money and he did a great job.
He did pretty. I mean, I've got a few complaints.
Have we named him yet?
Yeah, I said Jonathan Frakes.
Oh, did you say Jonathan Frakes? I couldn't remember.
I'm pretty sure. Said it. Jonathan Frakes as Riker, the second in command of the Enterprise.
Yep.
He is under our next person,
who is Patrick Stewart, Jean-Luc Picard.
That's right.
Who are English.
Everybody
captain.
Yeah, and everybody knows who Patrick Stewart is. Yeah. Like, again, this is one of those, much like Willy Wonka, if you don't know who he is, like you didn't know what Willy Wonka
him
was.
Or heard him in something.
Something.
He's a prolific voice actor,
well,
too.
And he is just he's in a lot.
Yeah, he's
man.
in everything.
He's great.
I love Patrick Stewart.
Yeah. Next on the list, we're gonna hit LeVar Burton because I love LeVar Burton. LeVar Burton plays Geordie. He's usually our man in a visor. He's not rocking a visor in this one.
No, they gave him new eyes. He's got the nifty implant.
Yeah.
They do more? They're better than his visor?
I guess the same.
Yeah, same. They do the
They
exact...
just look better.
Yeah, because he didn't want to wear
I
that.
guess the visor dude already did so much. It's
Yeah.
crazy for them to try to tell me he did more.
Yeah.
But yeah, so LeVar Burton, for anyone who doesn't recognize that name, is Reading Rainbow.
It's Reading Rainbow. I can do anything.
Just take a look.
It's in a book. It's Reading Rainbow.
All right.
All right, we're done.
Like we said, if there's ever a reason to belt out a bop, guys, we're
We'll
going to let
do
you
it.
hear it. Again, LeVar Burton.
Yeah,
He's also
LeVar
in
Burton.
Roots. He's in, I mean, he is
Yeah.
a prolific actor. He's in lots of things. You should
He's
know who
won
he is.
Oscars, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
He wants to be the host of Jeopardy, and I say he should
Dude,
be.
do it. That'd be great. I would watch Jeopardy again.
Brent Spiner,
Data.
our man Data, who is visibly aged in this one.
Yeah.
I didn't touch up on the last episode of the series before looking at what he looked like in this one to double check. But I just feel like the wrinklage difference.
Yeah.
And it's not his fault. Again, I feel like this is one of those, like, I'm watching it on a much crisper TV. And so, like, the makeup they used didn't seem as bad with, you know, the glittery
creasing and
but
stuff.
But on a big
What's it called? OLED
TV. Yeah, it was super noticeable.
Yeah, but I love Brent Spiner.
Oh, I do too. He can.
Yeah, he can.
I don't even care.
No, I don't either.
Just do what they did for the new Picard. Like, find
Yeah.
a reason that his robot body is old and let
We
him
just
do it.
reskinned him so he looks old.
Yeah, that's
There
all
we
you
go.
need to do. That
I
I'm
believe
good.
you. He's an android. You can do that.
Do whatever you need to.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Doesn't bother me at all.
So our next one is going to be Michael Dorn. Now that is a name. He plays Lieutenant Worf or
Lieutenant Commander Worf.
He got a
He's
promotion.
He's got the three pips.
But so that's a name. He is an actor. He is normally hidden behind all the makeup, so a lot of people may not know that name, like some of the ones we had mentioned before.
Yeah, but you know Worf.
Yeah, everybody knows Worf. Again, he's the guy with the crazy forehead. Everybody knows this. He carries the cool batleth.
I want one.
Yeah, everybody wants one, man. Those things are dope.
I tried to make one in my blacksmith's forge, but I couldn't.
Next character, we got Gates McFadden.
Dr. Crusher.
That's Dr. Crusher.
I love Dr. Crusher. I liked her way better than Dr. Pulaski.
Yeah. No. That she was.
She's a robot racist. She's mean to Data, and
She's kind of mean to a lot of people.
The only person she was really nice to was Picard.
Yeah.
Because
they were
she's
the
just
same age.
kissing the captain's ass. That was all Pulaski
Because they were
was
the
doing.
same age.
Oh yeah, probably. We're the old people on the ship. We gotta stick together.
And then so the next one is going to be our last of our main cast. This is the last of our next gen
Our bridge
mainstays.
crew.
Our bridge crew, exactly. So that's going to be Deanna Troy, even though technically should never have been a bridge crew, but she was, right? Because she's just a counselor.
She's just the counselor. She
But they
should
were
have been
like
on
she's-
deck 30.
They were like, she's pseudo psychic, so we can use that on the bridge.
Yeah, she's empathic.
No, that's the in front of camera reason. Now the behind the scenes reason is just because they were like, we need someone really hot in tight clothes, and that's who she was for next gen.
Yeah.
Every modern Star Trek has a hot chick in tight clothes,
Well, yeah, you have to because
right? Because we've got
sex sells.
her, we've got Deanna Troy, then
7 of 9.
7 of 9, T'Pol,
To Paul, yeah, that's
on
another
Enterprise.
one.
Deep Space Nine. Takes a while before we get tight clothes on them, right? Because it's Dax,
Kind of.
but she's never really in tight clothes. But
Not
she's
really.
definitely supposed to be the female.
Who's the Dabo girl that marries Rom?
I don't know.
We're way into it.
That's not even important enough to matter. But you guys get the idea. There is usually a character who is a hot chick in tight clothes.
And this was unfortunately her, and they don't give her a lot to do.
No.
No.
In this movie, worse than the show.
Yeah, she's just kind of.
Do they even mention that she's got the telepathic stuff in this?
She feels that Picard is sensing something when the Borg show up.
Yeah,
but
but
other than
if
that,
you aren't-
she didn't.
if you don't know
but
the series,
I don't
right?
think they outright say it at
Right,
all.
because think about that. Like, if you don't know the series, that comment doesn't make you think she's like telepathic. That comment just makes you think
She knows her captain's
Yeah.
feeling something like, oh, we've been friends forever. I
So-
can hit the way he looks.
So we'll let that slide.
Like, you
but
can tell
definitely, I was like, man, this. How do we go through the whole movie without talking about that?
Because the writers never know what to do with poor Deanna, and I hate it.
That's our main cast.
That's the main cast.
So anybody else that we might want to be mentioning, they're gonna be characters that are either just specific to this or not primary.
Yeah, secondary characters.
Lieutenant Barkley.
Lieutenant Barkley and what's his name? Blue Eye guy with the blonde hair.
Neil McDonough.
Yeah, that dude.
I love Neil McDonough.
What's
He
his
is definitely
name?
in my notes. He is he's in the movie Tin Man.
He's in Tin Man and
the franchise. I don't know what is that, like a miniseries. And he's also in Justified as one of the bad guys in like the
he's
later
in Band
seasons.
of Brothers. He plays one of those guys.
I love Neil McDonough.
Yeah.
And again, you know him because of those eyes. Those
Yeah,
eyes
those
that are
ice
so
blue
blue
eyes.
that they're like silver.
They're freaky.
If you're listening, Neil.
Yeah. Come on the show. Come hang out. Drink a beer with us. You can pick the movie even.
We will mention some other characters like those in passing when
Lieutenant
we see them.
Hawk. That's his name in the movie.
Yes.
I remember.
Yes. Now we can just kind of get into the movie.
This is your
the
favorite
reason
part.
we're here.
The music. In
The
beginning.
music. So as we intro, just like always, we got to talk about
that intro
music or lack of music if we run into one like that.
Haven't so far.
Yeah, so far it's always started with some kind of
And
nice.
they've all been good.
It's this one included.
Yeah.
It is just a very momentous version of the
Next gen theme.
Yeah,
And it's like slowed down and epic.
Yes,
And then the
exactly. So
credits
epic. It just
roll
it gives
through with
you
all of
this-
our cast.
this bombasticness to
Yeah.
it.
Just
So it kicks it off right.
Yeah.
If you've never seen Next Gen, know that the theme is great. It is an orchestral
yeah.
song.
Da, 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 da.
Yep, that's the one.
Yeah. You all know. You've heard it before. I know you
If I
have.
think Star Trek, that's the one I think.
Yeah, that's the one I think
don't
of too.
think the original series.
No.
So we go straight from this music doing typical Next Gen. Like again, Next Gen started a lot of trends that are still there in modern Trek, right?
Yeah.
One of those being that the intro is usually just cuts of like random space, right? But Next Gen barely does the cast intro. It's mainly
just the ship moving through space and stuff.
and so that's what most of Star Trek does. We go from the pan in with the music to flashback,
Right.
Picard,
Big
Borg.
shot on his eye, and we widen out, and we see the Borg cube.
We see the flashback of him as Locutus.
Yeah.
Then we start to see the Borg. Some of these people don't know what a Borg is.
Sorry.
You're going fast.
I'm so sorry.
We can go fast for some parts. The beginning where we're saying this is a Borg, which is a big part of the movie.
Yeah, we
we
should
might want
probably
to tell
explain
people what a
Borg
Borg
is.
is.
All right, continue. I apologize.
So again, a Borg, which is what we see Picard is in the very
Yeah, in the beginning.
He was once turned into one of these. They are part synthetic and organic.
And organic, yeah.
So they assimilate.
Integrate their cultural and technological distinctiveness into their own.
Yeah, which is a
Quote.
weird, fancy way to actually say that they take them over and turn them into,
Drones, like bees.
or as is later said in the movie, cybernetic zombies. That's what the Borg are. Picard got turned into one, setting this up for everybody so
Yeah.
a little bit of the backdrop of what's going on. So he got turned into one, but he didn't get permanently turned into one. Up until this point in the series, anybody who had been turned into one was permanently.
Yeah,
There
he's
was
the
no
only
way
one to come back.
Yeah, other than him, there's been no way to reverse this process.
No.
Because this is pre-Voyager.
Pre-Voyager.
Voyager exists at this point, but it is not.
I don't think 7 of 9
Seven
on
of
the
Nine's
show
not on
yet.
it yet. She doesn't join until I think the year after
Season
this.
4, so something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
it'd be
he's-
97, 98.
Yeah. This is pre any kind of thing like that. So he's the only one who's ever crossed the line and made it back.
Yeah.
And no one still really understands what happened to it, like the differences.
Yeah.
He still deals with
PTSD and
crazy things,
crazy
connections.
things. This whole beginning sequence
Where we-
is just
yeah,
where he's just reliving it.
And he thinks the thing is actually jumping out of his face,
Yeah.
the Borg implant.
it's all a nightmare. He wakes up to the Admiral calling, right? After the nightmare of the Borg
Yep.
and stuff. And
The Admiral name drops Deep Space 5. I only want to point this out because this movie kind of acts as like a giant advertisement for both of the franchises that we're still working at the time,
Yeah.
there are constant references to Voyager and constant references to Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
So that way, if you were a fan of either of those, you could go to the movie and be like,
It's one of my things I see.
watch that every week.
I love that show.
So I will probably be stopping us a few times to be like, that's another reference that they just threw in for shameless plugging to the people who are
Fan
watching.
service. That's the new fancy term for it, right?
That's our first fan service for the active shows. Again, this isn't fan service for because it's a long history to Star Trek already at this point when this
50
movie
years
came out.
worth?
Well, again, when this movie came out, it was only like 30.
Yeah, still though.
But still, that's
It's a long time.
in the realm of TV. That's a big
That's
history.
forever.
Doctor Who only beats Star Trek by like a week.
Wow.
You know, we talked about it being old too.
Yeah.
The bigger difference there being that Doctor Who was on pretty much continuously when Star Trek was only on in the 60s. Giant gap minus movies.
And then the
And then
80s,
the late 80s into the 90s.
90s and stuff. He wakes up, the Admiral's calling, and his worst nightmares are coming true. The Borg are attacking. He's like, no, I already know what you're going to say. And then he goes and tells the rest of the crew.
And then the crew's like, all right, let's go.
Yeah, what are we doing? Let's go.
And he's like, we can't.
We're not allowed.
The guy told me that's what's going on. He said, you're going somewhere else.
You're going to the neutral zone.
Because you used to be a Borg and we can't trust you around the
No.
Borg. Which everybody is like, what? Yeah,
You're
the
the
neutral
best-
zone. It's always the damn
It's
neutral
always
zone.
the neutral zone. They're all like, you're the best guy to do this. And he's like, nope, Starfleet says no. They think
Yeah.
I'm compromised.
And they pan across the whole bridge while they're dealing with all these people being like, no, Cap, we don't
what the
believe
fuck?"
that. So that way we can see our full, well, not our full.
Yeah.
Most
Most
of
of the
most of
crew.
our reunion
Yeah.
from the show. And everybody, I gotta say, they look really good.
Especially Gates McFadden.
Yes.
She's
It's
been great.
2 years since the end of the series. So again, not like a lot of time, but just enough time where, for some of the fans were like, what have they been doing? What do they look like? What's going on with them? They all look really good. Yes, Gates McFadden looks better than she ever did on the show.
For some reason, it's like where they spent way more time on her hair than
She
anybody
looks
else.
5 years younger than
Right?
she ever did on the show. She looks amazing.
I think it's because they straightened her hair. I didn't like.
I think
the
it's more
curly
than her hair, but I think that she's stunning.
Yeah.
Either way.
Love Gates McFadden.
This is when we see our young Neil McDonough for the first time.
He has a shocked look on his face, just like, I can't believe.
No, he's the one. Picard tells everybody like, all right, well then this is your last chance. You can either hop off or go with us on this crazy mission. Know that you could get kicked out. It sounds nuts, but Picard's made speeches like this a lot.
Yeah.
Most captains in Star Trek.
Oh
make
yeah, there's
speeches
always
like
a point
this.
where they end up like, we're going across the Rubicon. Who's going with me?
Yeah, and so Neil McDonough is the only person on the bridge that does. Yeah, he makes this noticeably like he doesn't leave, but he does make a face like we're gonna do what?
We're going what? But yeah, we got to go back and help Earth because Starfleet is just getting spanked. Data is awkward. I thought it was awkward when he's just like, to hell with our orders.
Everything in this movie with Data feels a little weird
Yeah.
because this is one of the movies where he's got his emotion chip, right?
Oh yeah, that's right. He hasn't turned it off yet. So
Yeah,
maybe
he
that's-
turns it off halfway through the movie, and then I think the Borg turn it back on. So
Yeah.
again, anytime where you deal with Data and the emotion chip, they use that as an opportunity just to play the character in really weird ways sometimes.
Yeah.
And not Brent Spiner, like the writers. The writers use that as an opportunity to have the character do things out of character.
It's not as good. It's not as good as the other movie where he goes, "Oh shit!" right
Yeah.
before the Enterprise
Like I
crashes.
said, I can forgive it though.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then we cut in, we see the Defiant. The Defiant is, again, this is our name drop to Deep Space
for Deep
Nine
Space
again.
Nine.
Because that's where the ship comes from. That's why we know
my favorite
anybody who
ships.
is a Trekkie already knew that Worf was on there, but
And
then they
this-
cut to us and let us see him.
I love this because this is what the Defiant was designed to do, was to fight the Borg.
Yep.
And it didn't get blown up. It did its job quite well.
Yep.
Damaged and adrift, but they rescue Worf.
I will point out, for anybody who is a fan, we have a young Adam Scott. Do you know who that actor is?
I don't.
He was the one at the con
On the
of
Defiant.
the Defiant. He is in Parks and Rec.
Nice.
And Party Down and 1,000 other things. If you guys know, if you're a fan of Adam Scott, you know who
Hell
he
yeah,
is.
dude. He's
And this
part
is-
of the Star Trek family.
He was super young. He didn't have very many lines.
No, it's all just techno babble stuff.
He basically was just like
When Worf's like,
he's
"It's a
like
good
the
day to
Enterprise
die."
is, yeah, and he's like, the Enterprise is here.
Ah.
But so yeah, that's all we see of the Defiant. They all get teleported off.
Worf gets to reunite with the rest of the crew.
Yep.
and they send him over to his old station. And Riker makes a very inappropriately timed joke about Worf being able to know if he knows how to do the phasers still.
Everything between Riker and Worf is
awkward.
Well, it's always awkward. It's been awkward since like season 3 of Next Gen, because they both had a thing for Troy.
Yeah.
And it stayed on again, off again with both of them for most of the series, right? But then after the series, it got cemented that it's Riker. Like that's when it became like guaranteed Riker was the winner.
Yeah, he wins.
So every time they interact in movies,
it's like
always
he's being so smug about it.
Yeah,
Like, I won, big
that's
man.
That's exactly what it is. It's exactly.
Like, this Riker, calm your shit.
Well, he makes a joke about the Defiant being tiny.
Little. And he's like, little?
So again, like I said, it's always, there's all this ribbing.
Something.
And it is coming from Riker, the winner.
Every time.
To the loser.
He's being smug. That's all he's doing.
Exactly.
Take your victory with grace, Riker. You got her. Now back off.
Oh, he can't, though. That's not how he works.
Even in the season 3 of Picard, the newest one, he's still doing it.
Then we see Picard tells everybody, the entire fleet, to fire on this one spot of the Borg cube.
Because he knows something, because he was there.
Because he was there. At this point, it's been years since the first attack. Wolf
359.
Yeah, it's been years since that, when Picard was still Locutus.
Yeah.
He never gave this intel
to Starfleet before.
Shouldn't people have known?
This should be general
knowledge.
This should have been daily training drills for all Starfleet officers
for what to do when they run into a Borg
when
cube.
the Borg shows up.
Did you not think this?
I did. I was like, why are they just now knowing about this?
I was like, this is so awkward. Not even people on his crew.
Picard
the people
being
that
petty,
should know.
He's like, I'm going to keep it to myself until they really need it. Try and keep me out of this
Right?
fight.
It was so weird. I'm glad that you caught that too, because I was like, why does that make sense?
It's been like 6 years since Wolf 359 now. No, this should have been standard training for everybody at this point.
But so they do blow it up, and as soon as it blows up, though, they see that it shoots a Borg sphere. Now, this is where it gets weird, guys. The Borg ships are just shapes. So it's spheres, cubes, and then
hexagons.
Right? Or something like that.
What's the... like a D&D die, the 20-sided die, whatever those are called.
Dodecahedron.
Yes, that word. Dodecahedral ships. There we go.
They're always just shapes.
Yeah.
And nothing else. And so the cube births a sphere,
which goes rocketing toward Earth, and the Enterprise goes in pursuit.
And then we get one of the dumbest lines ever from Riker. Picard says, they're creating a temporal vortex. And then
time travel. Thank you, Riker, for dumbing it down for the rest of it.
We all understand what temporal
vortex means, dude.
Like, you did not have to tell us that.
It's immediate, though. He jumps up. Time travel?
This was one of those moments where I was like, and he's the director.
He is.
That was his choice.
He's too busy directing to worry about his acting.
It was his choice. But again, you're just looking at it from the acting. I'm not even talking about the acting. It might have been his choice to have that scene all together.
Yeah, that's true. I'm going to shine here. This is my moment.
Right? That's the part that's horrible. That's the takeaway. He could have had that thought.
No, and later his best scene is when he's talking about like the moon and the people who all live on it when he's talking to Cochrane. That's his best acting. You want to go by acting. It's his best acting in the movie.
Yeah, then we get that the Borg, we just get told this. Like, it's not even like, this is one of those things in the movie where they kind of brush past it despite it being the biggest part of the movie, is that this technically turns out to be plan B for the Borg. Right?
Yeah,
like the major plan was not this. The first plan was
we're going to invade.
Because they could not have planned
for the Borg cube to blow up.
Right? So this was like a backup plan.
Yeah.
Or if it was the main plan, I don't understand why they didn't just immediately fly in and do it, or time travel from the from the Delta Quadrant,
and then go
right,
because they can get to the Federation pretty quick from the Delta Quadrant. So they just time travel from where you are and then go to Earth.
They didn't have to time travel by Earth. That seems risky. So we would assume that this is Plan B.
Yeah.
Right. Plan B was that the ship came out and went back.
They were hoping for another Wolf 359.
Yeah, they thought they were going to annihilate, but
Starfleet was ready for them because they had the Defiant.
I guess.
I love that ship.
we just get told like, okay, so it goes back in time
Yeah,
and Picard, and everybody's like,
we're gonna go follow him in.
we follow them back in time. As soon as they get back in time, they realize when it is. Now, what's weird is they play the scene out really slowly. Like first they're like a general time frame of when it is, and then they say like two more lines.
Two more words, and Picard's like, wait, I need the exact date.
And it's like, couldn't we have just not done the first guess?
Yeah, we shouldn't have been just like, where are we, Data? It's April 4th,
Yes, yeah, that's what I thought.
2063.
But so that's when we find out that this is literally
The day before first contact with the Vulcans.
yes. And so first contact with the Vulcans is what sets up the Prime Directive.
And
because the Vulcans have a rule that is literally, their rule is literally you can't interact until warp.
Yeah.
And we take their rule and
We're a
make,
little more flexible with it than, the Vulcans are, though.
we take their rule and we make the Prime Directive. And so after we make the Prime Directive, like I said, that's now is where the movie starts to get a little bit weird with the fact that it's about the Prime Directive.
Yeah.
Because this is what I wanted to talk to you. Again, we have told you guys the behind the scenes, me and Bo have not talked about this. So I have been dying to ask him about this specific thing. But hold on to your pants. We're about to get real dorky for a second, everybody.
Nerd stuff. Let's go.
All right, so the Prime Directive, right,
Yeah.
applies to you interacting with any pre-warp civilization.
Society. Yeah.
They show up before
Warp.
we are warp.
Yeah.
Even though they know we're going to be warp. So this is my question. Does the Prime Directive apply?
Hard line, yeah. They shouldn't have done anything. They should have just let it play out
but
the way it is. But then we
Now-
wouldn't be here.
But now we also hit the temporal time directive.
Oh, then the temporal prime directive. It's my duty to do everything possible to preserve the original timeline. So that would probably supersede
The regular prime directive.
prime directive of non-interference. So yeah, we have to do everything. They did what they were supposed to. Good job, crew.
And now like I said, the part about this that makes it really funny is that, like we said, we're already dealing with the Prime Directive and how they technically go against the Prime Directive.
Just
Not
kinda
immediately.
blatantly break it.
Not immediately.
No, they try.
They
but
try.
Cochrane doesn't buy their story.
But so they try, but they definitely, by not following the Prime Directive, do follow the temporal Prime Directive.
Yeah.
Not knowing they do, because again, right now in the universe of Star Trek, that doesn't exist. They don't actually create that until Enterprise.
Yeah, when the temporal Cold War starts.
Well, when we find about, not when it starts. It starts
Or
in the
we find
future.
out
We
about
find out about it.
Yeah,
because again, if
they
we're
come
getting,
back and recruit
now we're
Archer.
getting all timey-wimey. Because again, we're talking about a show that is set before this one
by
but
like
events after this
150
one.
years.
But we didn't learn about things it talked about until
27th
so
century.
we're not even dealing with that. I'm just saying that in universe they did not actually know about the temporal Prime Directive yet.
Yeah.
Someone did, because again, in history, they did. Jonathan Archer already knew.
Yeah, he did.
Again, sorry for everybody listening who is not
a Star
huge
Trek fan.
Trekkie,
You are
because
so lost.
We went deep for a second there. But yeah, so the Prime Directive and the temporal Prime Directive were definitely, one was ignored, but the other one got followed because the other one was ignored.
Yeah, one supersedes the other.
Yeah. Now the real kicker here though is, like I said, all of these things were set into motion so that way they could protect first contact, which is the thing that sets us in motion to create the Prime Directive in the first place.
Yeah. Is your head hurt yet?
Man, we're all over the place.
Yeah, we are. But yeah, the Borg show up in the past and attack Cochrane's missile complex where he's building the warp ship.
In Bozeman, Montana.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that.
No.
I didn't need the movie to tell me that it was Bozeman, Montana.
I didn't either. I just wrote it in my notes.
I don't know what is really in Bozeman, Montana, but I'll tell you right now, I'll always know Bozeman, Montana. And I hope they have a plaque. I hope they have a plaque.
I do too. I want them to have a plaque.
Star Trek fan base is one of the fan bases that does
will
stuff
do
like
stuff
that.
like
yeah.
There's
You
a
know, like
Janeway bust in Indiana.
Kirk has whatever his hometown is. There's a plaque for like James C. Kirk. Yeah. So I hope that Bozeman.
Do the French have one for Picard?
I hope so, and I hope Bozeman, Montana has one for this.
Yes. If they don't, we have to start a campaign.
But yeah, so it gets attacked. They realize they have to get down there because they have to save it to make sure first contact happens. Because if first contact doesn't happen, then there is no Starfleet. No. And we see that with no Starfleet, the whole reason the Borg want to do this right before they land, we kind of skipped over this.
Yeah,
right
we're going through the tiny stuff.
Yeah, right before they went back in time.
Yeah,
they saw what modern day Earth was going to look like after this stuff happened.
Yeah, when it was all Borgified.
Everybody is still there.
But they're all Borg. Which is a horrible, horrible fate.
Yeah.
So we have to.
Well, it's super horrible because, again, to know how the Borg work, it means that by that point of existence, they are literally just farming people.
Yeah. Oh, shit. Yeah.
Because at that point, the Borg don't reproduce normally.
No.
So they are keeping some alive to farm them.
It's like the Matrix. They're in the like
has to
the
be
tanks. With
with Voyager babies. Shows us like babies.
Oh yeah, babies in the tanks. That's right. I forgot about that.
So we know that's what they will do. Yeah, we know that's what they will do.
That's right.
So again, that's nuts. That's what would be.
Yeah.
But so they know they have to fix it because of that. So now we're gonna jump back to where we were because that's not super important, but they do see it, and it is a little bit of why they know it's dire.
Yeah, like we have to go back and fix this.
And so they know that they have to fix first contact because if there's no first contact, there's no Starfleet. There's no Starfleet. Nobody is here to protect us.
Yeah.
Now that being said, it quickly seems like they fix it.
Yeah, they just kind of blow up the
sphere. Yeah, they blow up the sphere and at first, and then they realize like they need to at least go check the spaceship.
Ship. So they beam
down. And so at first they beam down and they see that there's some wreckage and they need to fix it, and they think that's all they're going to need to do. They're like, we just fix this so that way it can still take off.
Yeah.
Boom. Done.
We're done. This is a 5-minute job. Get Giorgio down here with his boys.
But so then we have a weird moment with Cochrane's assistant.
She's
trying to shoot at everybody. She is wounded, and so she has to be taken onto the ship.
Yeah, they take her up to the Enterprise.
This is the time where they mention the Prime Directive.
Yeah.
This is the only time you were like, I don't remember if they do.
Yeah, right, because Dr. Crusher shuts him down like, shut up, I'll keep her unconscious.
So that way I'm not breaking the Prime Directive.
So it'll all be fine.
We know as viewers, both in the universe and outside of their universe, that technically the Temporal Prime Directive made it where it didn't matter.
Yeah.
And they don't talk about the Prime Directive that much, but this line lets us know that in their heads,
they're still thinking about it.
They did think that it was something they had to protect.
Yeah, and Deanna later does say that they had a cover story, but Cochrane doesn't believe her.
Yeah. This is definitely the moment that they take her on the ship. Picard tells Riker to stay on the planet because he thinks
something's up because the
temperature is weird. Well, he doesn't know the temperature is weird until he gets back, does he?
Yeah, no, he doesn't know that, but somebody says they're having problems.
And so he says
in engineering, and he's like, I'm going to go back up. Riker, you're in charge down here.
No, I do want to point this out because we had already gotten one little bit of like a foreshadowing hint about this temperature thing.
Yeah, because when
Geordi mentions it as he's leaving to get beamed down. He's like, and it's a little bit warm up here. Someone check into that. And he says that like it's not important, but I want to point out right now, this is we don't know how much it costs because later on Picard tells us money doesn't exist. We'll deal with that later. Like, this thing isn't an expensive ship, right?
Yeah. Flagship.
I'm going to tell you right now, I have in my house a thermostat that is it is pretty much sets itself to temperatures. It knows when to go to temperatures. It does it, and it does it quickly and tell me when and how fast. And you're telling me this man wasn't worried about the fact that he was starting to sweat
and
while
the computer
in engineering?
Didn't tell him anything?
No, sir.
No way.
No, sir.
There would have been a computer going off.
The alarm bell.
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
Temperature has increased to whatever degrees.
Nothing happened. So then Picard does. He goes back. He leaves Riker with a handful of people.
Geordi and some engineers.
Troy.
Barclay's down there.
Barclay, played by Dwight Schultz.
Dwight Schultz. I love Dwight Schultz.
But yeah, so Barclay is one of the people that we do know.
Yeah, we know. If you don't watch the show, it's probably not important. But if you watch the show, you love Barclay.
It's Barclay.
Yep.
Our lovable klutz. Our lovable klutz, Barclay. Picard goes back, and when Picard goes back, he as soon as he gets back, they tell him
we've lost contact with engineering, and
then they specifically say the temperature. And when he hears the temperature, he has another one of those moments, much like shooting the ship, where he says something, and everybody is like, "Oh yeah,"
just like a Borg ship.
And it's like again, shouldn't this be knowledge of
Yeah,
everybody?
shouldn't that
Everybody
already
should
be?
know this.
The guy sitting at the computer was like, "Oh shit, this temperature. That's the same." He shouldn't have needed Picard there to tell him. This should have been standard operating procedure. But he orders that floor shut down, and
I do want to jump back. We skipped over one conversation that I loved as a kid, and I want to point it out because before they come up, before Picard does go back to the ship, he has the moment with Data where they're touching the Phoenix.
Oh yeah,
right? And again, it's kind of a touching moment, is what they're trying to show you. Like Picard's teaching Data how to be human or something.
Yeah,
I'm not even worried about that. The main reason I wanted to bring this up is that during the conversation, they kind of have the realization that Zephram Cochrane could be dead because they've not found him yet, right? And literally,
like Deanna comes in and says something.
Yeah, and so literally the way Picard had idolized Cochrane and the ship and the way he's talking about it, and they bring it up in this moment. As a kid, as 12-year-old Shane sat in the theater and watched this movie, I literally was like, Picard's going to stay back and pretend to be Zephram Cochrane to keep the timeline intact, which sounds nuts, but is a very sci-fi-y and specifically Star Trek type of sci-fi-y way to handle something like this.
Cisco does it in Deep Space Nine. In an episode, he goes back in time and takes over that Bell guy for the Bell riots.
All right, so again, that we can go
there's precedent.
But we can go right back to where we needed to. I just had to point that out. Because 12-year-old me literally was just like half of this movie was convinced.
Stay.
Well, because again, the series was over.
Yeah.
They didn't know if they'd get more movies.
Right.
They totally could have done that and it been a good way
would have been a good ending.
Thank you.
No, it really would have. Like, Picard is Zephram Cochrane.
Back to where we were. They're on the ship. They realize things are wrong. Borg start attacking. All pandemonium breaks loose, right? And then we get one of my favorite scenes of the Borg on the ship, which is
Sick Bay.
Sick Bay, where the doctor
from Voyager.
Yeah, where we get to see Beverly Crusher says, I always swore I'd never use one of these
things. What is her beef, man? Why does she hate
everybody hates the EMH.
Okay, it's not our EMH.
Well,
it's just an EMH.
That's character. Everybody hates the program of the EMH. That is canon.
Yeah, it is.
And there is an episode all about it.
I know.
They get turned into trash.
I had to remind myself.
Trash workers.
Yeah, they're like miners and ditch diggers and things now.
So again, nobody liked them.
Yeah, I had to remind myself that it's not my doctor.
But the reason it's my favorite is not only because of that, because again, I love Voyager.
Right.
Next Gen's my favorite. I've spent the most time with Voyager.
Yeah, I watch it the most.
So I love that we get this, but the main reason I super love it is that this is before our EMH really has a whole lot of personality, even on Voyager. He's got more personality than this one, right?
Yeah.
But this is before I would say we know that he loves opera and he loves the theater. And what does she tell this guy to do? To buy them time?
Sing a song, do a dance. Yeah, that's funny.
That is something that our doctor would indeed have done to cause a distraction.
It would have. I wrote my notes. I was like, Voyager's doctor would have handled these Borg.
Our EMH would have 100% have done that.
He would
exactly that way.
He knows how to sang a song. He knows how to handle some
He would have
Borg.
sang a song and he would have done a dance.
It would have been great, and the Borg would have been just standing there confused.
Again, there are lots of scenes of Borg on the Enterprise in this movie. That's my favorite.
Yeah, I'm a doctor, not a doorstop.
At this point, obviously, our Lily, our passenger from Earth, has woke up and
gets separated from Dr. Crusher somehow.
At this point, we see everybody. It's just
Picard,
a manhunt in the hallway.
Data and like the entire security.
Our Neil McDonough.
Yeah, and they've all got new fancy big blaster.
These were created for this movie.
Oh, were they?
I'm pretty sure these were created for this movie.
They show up in Voyager later.
Yeah, well, again, that's how this happened. Some of the uniforms in this finally they
just reused props and stuff. Yeah, I get it. But they go to engineering to go try and what was the plan? They're gonna bust the plasma thing.
Change the temperature.
Kill everybody.
Yeah, I don't know.
They get there and there's Borg everywhere, and the door won't open, and then Data breaks the door handle.
Oh yeah, well, and we get the line from Picard right when they're in the hallways.
Maybe we should have knocked.
No, and he's just like, nobody move.
Oh yeah,
they'll walk right past us. They're not worried about us now.
Yeah, lower your weapons.
It was such a 90s thing, right?
Right.
Jurassic Park gave us at some point we have to say don't move. It won't see us.
Yeah.
And that's, again, they didn't say it, but that's what happened. It was totally a don't move, they won't see us kind of scene.
Right.
Then Data gets pulled under a door. Oh no!
Yeah.
It was so crazy. It was so out of place. Like, because again,
Because he was kicking ass.
Yeah, the door barely opens.
Yeah,
they grab him from the
grab
ankles.
him underneath
It
and
was
pull him
so.
under.
It was so comical. If it weren't in such a intense moment in the movie, I would have been laughing
Right.
hysterically.
Picard just kind of watches it happen too. He's just like, oh, Data.
Yeah. So at this point, I'll point out that technically there's a lot of jumping back and forth from Earth to the ship to Earth to the ship. And we're not going to follow with the jumps because, like we have said in some other movies, it'd be too hard for us to tell you what's going on if we jump. Because some of these jumps literally are two lines. They say two lines and then they cut back to another scene and then they cut right back to them. There's no reason. So we're just going to kind of go with coherentness. So right now we're going to stick with the Borg attack because that's kind of important. And then we'll get back to what's happening on Earth with Cochrane and all the other
because they withdraw after Data gets kidnapped and Picard gets separated. And this is where he gets jumped by Lily and she snatches his phaser.
Yeah.
And then he convinces her that they're on a ship in space
well,
by opening that one portal and telling her, like, Montana's coming up. You can jump out, but I'd hold your breath. It's a long way down.
Does that happen before or after the holodeck?
That happens before because she still has the phaser on him. And then after,
that's right. But that's like we get
back.
We get one of my favorite lines.
Maximum.
We get one of my favorite lines. He says this was on maximum. You totally would have killed me, and she's just like, sorry, it's my first time with a ray gun.
Right, great,
love it,
great stuff. And then,
it's the exact quote. It's my first ray gun. So then now's when we get bionic zombies as a line from her.
Yeah, and they're trying to make their way back to the bridge.
And they go into the holodeck.
Yeah.
Right? And so we'll do everything on the holodeck, and then we'll jump back to Earth for a couple of beats.
Yeah.
Right? So the holodeck, though, they get on. He quickly explains to her in the barest of terms like what a holodeck is and makes a dress for her. And
it's a nice dress.
Yeah. They're in one of his holonovels that's set in the 20s.
Hill novels and stuff. And there's like a dance scene.
Yeah, and that lets you know the depravity of what the holodeck is because that hostess comes up to him and definitely implies that Picard has had some
fun in this place
with this lady.
Oh yeah.
And then he says he's looking for Nose, right?
Yeah, Tommy the Nose or something like that.
Did you recognize the actor?
I did not. I liked that he lit the match with his nose, though. That was pretty cool.
Nicky the Nose.
The Nose.
Played by Don Stark. That's Bob from that 70s show. I recognized his face as soon as I saw him. I was like, Bob, where's your fro? Where's your fro,
Yeah, he needs
Bob?
the fro.
Again, not important. He's not here.
But it's not important.
It's literally just there. Picard realizes he's in the wrong scene because he's just trying to get a gun. He gets the gun. He shut down all the emergency protocols, which means for some reason
holographic bullets can still kill you,
shoot and hurt you. So he kills a couple of Borg. When he kills a Borg, he says he starts just
tearing
ripping into its stomach, and he says he needed the neural processor. Now I want to say right now, neuroprocessor implies in the head.
Yes, I wrote that in my notes. I was like, why is he digging in his stomach for a neural processor? Wouldn't it be in his skull? He should really just smash his head in.
I don't know. It was so weird.
Too gruesome for Star Trek, I guess.
And then she realizes, she sees the badge. She's like, it's
one of yours.
And he was like,
and he's just cold, like it's Ensign Lynch.
Yeah.
And he just plugs in the whatever he just yanked out of the poor guy.
It's war, dude.
Yeah, but I mean, she's just like, tough luck, huh? And
all right. So that's the whole scene on the holodeck, really.
Yeah.
We can go ahead and jump back. Everybody on Earth. So on
trying
Earth,
to help fix the Phoenix, and everybody's looking at Cochrane.
Well, before we even get there, because remember, we jumped around some scenes.
Oh, yeah, we did.
We have to jump back. So the first thing we've got is just them looking for Cochrane, finding Cochrane. Of course, Troy finds Cochrane.
Deanna found him.
At a bar.
He's in a bar.
She had to get very drunk herself to get him to tell her anything, which was still barely anything.
Yeah.
Riker realizes what's going on. This whole scene is nothing but Jonathan Frakes making a lot of really weird facial expressions.
And trying to be funny.
And it didn't really play.
No.
So I don't really mind that we're not covering a lot. But basically all you need to know is two people got very drunk and they at least convinced Cochrane to go with them to hear more of what they had to say.
Yeah.
That's what happened right there.
That's it.
Then the next day, he wakes up from having drunk all night, and they proceed. Oh no, it's still the same night because they tell him to look in
the telescope.
The
to see
and he thinks it's a
trick.
He thinks it's like painted on, or like they're
goes and
projecting a hologram
goes
onto
to
the
look in.
lens.
He's like, "How'd you do that?" And they're like, "It's your telescope." Man.
Yeah, and so he sees the Enterprise flying out in space, and so he realizes, oh no.
Oh.
And so that they, at this point, they officially start to break the Prime Directive
And tell him
everything. They tell him,
look, you're gonna meet.
They brush on who he is.
Yeah, a little
not
bit.
big yet.
Not as much.
Not yet. Soon.
Yeah.
But so they just say, like, this is an important event. They don't say you are important.
You need to make your warp flight tomorrow, like
because
you
it
planned,
will lead to
because
other
it
things.
will lead to important stuff.
We get to see them. We'll go ahead and cover them the next day. They wake up and everybody's just working. Like they convince them. They're hard at work.
Yeah.
They're all doing stuff. Then Geordi messes up. They have this scene outside, and when he's talking to Zephram. Now, before I start with what they actually say, I want to say this because I when I watched the scene, it felt very weird to me.
Mm-hmm.
They have this scene where he's outside, right? We've already addressed that he used to be the guy with the visor. Now he's got magical new eyes, and the new eyes are still tech eyes.
Yeah.
They're not eye eyes. He's wearing sunglasses, and at first I was like, oh, he's wearing sunglasses so that way people won't see his tech eyes and be like, what's this dude?
Yeah.
But then he takes them off when Barkley brings
him the copper tubing
and never puts them back on, and other people walk right by him. So again, it was not.
They just wanted him to look cool.
Has to, because again, he didn't need them.
No, he didn't need them.
So they're having a good moment. Zephram is just talking
because Barkley's fanboying about meeting him. He's like, I want to shake your hand.
So Geordi is like, yeah, you're super important.
I went to Zephram Cochrane High School.
There's statues of you.
Yeah. And he starts describing the statue. Yeah. And he's like, you're all reaching off into the future. And Cochrane's just like, I gotta go take a leak.
Yeah. And they have this beautiful moment where Geordi doesn't get what that means.
Leak?
And
I'm not detecting any leak.
They laugh so hard.
Good stuff.
So we'll do one more scene here, and then we'll go back to to the ship.
Yeah, because
that'll be the perfect time, because then that's when the ship hits people reconvening and like going out and to space dock, right?
Yeah, that's when we get our spacewalk.
So the last scene that we'll do right here, though, is going to be the part that makes no sense. So again, just to set you up, we're not cutting away from it to tell you that, but this is one of the cuts. He went to pee, and then they give us another scene away from this scene. They cut back to Riker and Geordi looking for the man after he said he had to go pee. They say two lines to each other, and then Geordi sees him
there
peeing.
He is, and he's off in the trees having a piss.
And there's no explanation for why they needed to be looking
and they
for
seem
him.
Disappointed, like, it's like, well, he wasn't running yet.
Well, there wasn't
he was
even
just peeing.
Well, they didn't know he would be running. You get what I mean? Like, there's no explanation for why
that
we
little
have this
scene
scene
didn't
at
need
all.
to be there.
So that scene just continues a little bit further, where they do catch him in the woods. He was scared. He was thinking about not doing
any
it.
Of this
they
stuff.
calm him down. We're gonna cut away from him because the next part.
Him.
Yeah. Well, they get him calm.
That calms him, right?
I didn't lie.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm just saying.
I just didn't maybe give you the full truth. He was calm when it was done.
Yeah, he was totally calm.
He got on the ship, right?
Yeah. Pretty sure he woke up on the ship.
Like I said, he got on the ship.
Where am I?
You keep trying to add words that I don't think are important to what we're saying here. He was on the ship.
It's only speculation.
He was on the ship.
That's all that matters.
But so we're going to cut back to on the Enterprise. So on the Enterprise, we have after the holodeck, they realize they got to change their phasers, which this is from Deep Space Nine. They got to change their phasers where they're
modulating constantly on rotation.
But even that, the board can figure out quickly, and then it doesn't matter.
You only get like 3-4 shots, then you have to do it again.
So they realize Picard realizes though that they need to do something with the grav plate outside, right?
Oh, the Borg have stopped on deck 11, and Worf doesn't know why, and Picard knows why because he pulled that thing out of the one dude, and he's like, they're building a beacon on the deflector dish.
Yeah, that's right. So that way they can talk to the
Borg from this time period.
Which is what
ahead. This is Plan C.
Well, no, this is actually just continuation of Plan B, because this is what would allow them to still take over Earth, even though we thought. Oh, yeah. Everything ended when the ship blew up, right? Yeah. It's because technically they've always been able to subspace communicate to the thems from that time to come finish
the Delta
plan.
Quadrant.
Yeah. And so Picard realizes that's what they need to do, and he's like, Worf,
you remember your 0G combat training?
You remember going outside? We're about to go outside.
And he's just like, it makes me sick to my stomach. I don't want to.
And so this is another one of those moments where we're not going to do the cut because we've already talked about what's happening on Earth, but there was a cut here, and I only mention it because, again, this is one of those really fast ones, so you understand why we had to do this, because they literally cut from them talking about the spacewalk back to Earth for just a split second, just to come to them when they're walking on the... So the only thing they cut out was the putting on of the suit.
Yeah, that's it.
Which I understand, I'm fine with, but that's the whole reason we had to cut.
Yeah.
So we see them, they get on the outer decks.
Yeah, they've got Lieutenant Hawk with them too.
Yes. So it's just Worf, Picard, and Lieutenant Hawk, Neil McDonough, our guy.
Neil McDonough, the beautiful eyes.
And they see that the Borg are out there. They're working on this disc thing. It's the
deflector dish.
Yeah, and so they
because we're upside down technically.
Yeah. So they're like, their plan is just to pop it off.
Yeah, pop it off and blow it up
because they can always make a new one.
Yeah,
it's not a big deal.
I think if they blow it up while it's attached, it'll blow.
Oh, it would blow up a section,
half the ship probably.
So they just need to get rid of it, and so they're trying to manually do the locks,
things, and the Borg start noticing, and they go after each one of them.
We see Worf pulls out the mini batleth,
the mechlith.
Yeah, I was about to say, because this isn't even the knife that he usually has. This is literally like a mini batleth.
Yeah,
I was like
mechlith, and it's awesome.
I was like, this is dope, because normally you'd see just the weird like
the triple prong dagger. I can't remember the name of that one.
That's because that one's just used for rituals. It's okay.
Yeah, it's a ritual dagger.
Yeah, so they have this moment where Worf deals with the one, and then another one
gets torn though.
Yeah, and another one starts to go towards Picard and
Lieutenant Hawk.
Yeah, like they have all at this point been noticed and have someone coming.
Yeah, the Borg are after him.
Picard gets his done in. And McDonough got his, but right when he finished, the Borg got him, and that's the moment where we realized that all along we weren't paying attention, that he was our red shirt.
Yep, that's right. He had a red shirt the whole time.
None of us were thinking, because he made it so long.
Right?
So long.
We're like an hour and 15 minutes into the movie.
The movie's practically finished.
Right, we're almost done.
But yeah, so they do this thing and shoot it off, and we get our
action hero line from Worf. That's
but not kind of delivered like an action hero line.
Kind of assimilate this,
because again, the Borg are all about assimilation. That's what they like to say. It was horrible. Now what we're gonna do is jump to Data, because we've skipped over Data.
Data has been captured by the Borg.
Data got kidnapped, taken by the Borg Queen. We can kind of do this real quick. Yeah. They cut to him a bunch of times, but really all they're setting up for us, and
she's
Data,
trying to turn Data over to her side.
So normally they assimilate organic life, add cybernetics, and so now she's seeing Data as maybe like that was her mistake, because she tried to make Picard into her mate, right?
Yeah.
Oh, we just skipped over. Let's go ahead and address this, because we're such big fans. It's not a big deal to us, but this was the introduction of a Borg Queen. Nobody knew that that's what led them.
Alice Krieg. The Krieg.
Yeah, but so the Borg Queen was a big deal at the time, but for us as fans,
we were like, well, this is
just normal. Yeah, but now it's just normal. We just know that there was a queen. We find out that she made Locutus just to be like her partner,
a bridge between
that was always, we knew that in the series, but I'm saying now the revelation we have with her is that he was also supposed to be her equal. He was supposed to rule.
He was going to be the king,
essentially. And so now she is looking for a new way to do that, because she realized the way she did it the first time didn't work. So now she sees
do it with a robot.
She sees Data, and she's like, let's make him more human. And so she just starts grafting skin onto him, and she unlocks his emotion chip that he had shut down earlier, so that way he's more human. She's trying to make him into the hybrid the opposite way than she made Picard into a hybrid, hoping that he would make a better king. And that's it. We're not going to go back to them until we have to, which is when Picard runs into him.
She's doing a good job of trying to convince him.
Yeah, but again, there's not a lot going on between the two of them.
Oddly sexualized.
It's very sexualized.
It's weird.
But so let's see. Let's go back to Earth. Earth is just easy. They're on the ship.
Yeah, they're just getting ready for pre-flight. They're doing their check. They have this is where I said Riker's best acting scene was, because Cochrane's like, why I did this? I did this for money. And
you guys have this dream of the wrong. This guy isn't me. And I agree with him though, because I like this Cochrane.
Yeah.
In future Cochrane, we do see later in other series,
Enterprise,
and he is literally that Cochrane. Like he's the one they talk about. He is this idolized, like almost godlike person
that they've all been, hero worshiping their entire lives.
And I would rather it be this guy the whole time.
Yeah, he's more. He's actually more human.
I feel like
Really?
the movie has set up the
he's just
bootstrap
kind of
paradox here. We've got a predestination now of the fact that they have made him become that by telling him that's what he should become. And it makes me mad because I wish we could keep the original one.
Right. Probably way more fun. Like
Definitely more fun because the next scene we get is the music.
Right? I like to breathe. Yeah. It's a magic carpet ride. Yeah.
Steppenwolf.
A magic carpet ride and you don't know.
But yeah, so there's a whole scene where he literally stops them. They were counting down.
Yeah, and he
stops them because he couldn't find his music.
And Riker's like, we gotta abort.
Yeah, and so that. It was all just for that song,
right?
And I agree though that was such a great song to go up in space to. They get up in space. And they realize that they need to try to. They still need to take off. They see the Enterprise
is coming.
There.
And
they don't realize.
No, they don't know
wrong.
what's going on yet because they've lost contact with.
But so at this point, the Borg Queen is in control of the ship. And so she is going to start firing. We will go ahead and cut around real quick here because this is kind of the time where there are lots of cuts for a reason.
Yeah.
As opposed to earlier where they didn't need to. So right now, though, we see on the Enterprise that the Borg Queen is taking over. She is the reason it's firing on them with Data. Picard has stayed on the ship. He ordered everybody else to leave.
And they're going to do the self-destruct.
Yeah. And he only did it because the girl talked him into it because nobody else would talk.
Oh, yeah. We had the great line. The line must be drawn here.
Yeah.
No,
he loses it.
Yeah,
right?
he does. Breaks
in a way that Picard doesn't normally. You know why I test this too?
What?
Riker wasn't there.
Oh, that's true.
He needs number one.
He needs his number one to keep him calm.
Nobody else would talk to him the way that he needed to be talked to, except for Lily.
Except for Lily, because she's
if Lily wouldn't have been there, they might have all died.
That's true. That's very true. Because he was sitting in there like, I will figure out how to get this gun to kill you.
She convinces him, no, we definitely do need to blow all this up. He sends everybody off, but he stays, and then he hears Data, and so
he goes to give himself up to the Queen.
Yeah, to do something.
I can be your Locutus now.
Yeah. And so he gets there to try to stop the Queen, and
Data.
That's where we literally see what happens and why the ship doesn't get shot. Right? Yeah, why the Phoenix wasn't shot.
Yeah,
and it's because Data
looked like he had turned bad,
but he was secretly still in enough control. He had told Picard to come get him, and he still had enough control to stop it. Soon as he stops that, he then shatters this thing,
the plasma coolant tanks,
and the
CGI on this was really good.
Right, and the coolant tank literally destroys anything organic. So Picard gets.
Pico starts climbing up gets
high enough. Yeah.
The Queen looks for her little tube things, right? Yeah. And they start coming down. And Picard's like, "Screw you, I'm taking him." Yep. He starts climbing up, and she grabs his feet, and then Data jumps up out of the smoke and pulls her down in it, and we get to watch her melt.
And they make us think that Data's in trouble, even though again we know he's not, because the only parts of him that are human right now is a thin wristband.
And part of his face.
Yeah, but again, that's it.
He looks awesome though. With the half face.
But so we knew that there was no way he was in any kind of trouble. We can see him in the background.
Yeah, the blocking on that was bad. They should have had him somewhere else. And then Picard does his thing with the Queen's skull where he just snaps it.
And again, I point out, makes no sense. Because the Queen literally told us moments ago that that's not how her existence works. Because he said, I saw the whole ship blow up
when I got turned into Locutus the first time, so you shouldn't be here. He's like, oh, pretty boy, that's not how this works.
So she is going to be alive again. We already know this.
Made him feel better.
I guess, man.
He's just like, I'm going to snap this bitch's neck.
So random.
But you can see Data over his shoulder, and then he says something. He says Captain, and Picard whips around, and we're supposed to be like, oh, Data's okay. He's like, yeah, I could see him.
We knew the whole time. Yeah. So then let's cut back to the Phoenix. On the Phoenix,
they're going.
They finally are ready to go because they got to the right place, so they're lined up to shoot. Right.
Yeah.
And this is the moment I love because the whole time I was like, they're going warp, and we don't have nacelles.
Yeah.
This thing pops off two side panels to pop out two nacelles. It does warp 1. They come back.
Yeah, they're out by Jupiter, I think.
So they did everything they needed to. The Vulcans saw them. Now that everything's been resolved on the Enterprise, it goes and hides so that way the Vulcans won't show up. Vulcans show up on Earth. Everything is set right.
Yep.
We see Zephram Cochrane shake their hand.
Yeah, he tries to do the Vulcan hand salute.
Which again, the first time you ever try is hard.
All right, my hand is broken and I can't do it.
And that's it.
Yeah, that's it. Like Picard says bye to Lily.
They just go back on the ship and they just literally name drop that Geordi is just like, oh, by the way, I figured out how to
do
reverse
that vortex
engineer.
thing. When did you have time to do that?
Yeah, because he's been on Earth fixing the ship. But yeah, he's just like, oh yeah, I figured out how to reverse engineer their time travel. I can get us back. And we never hear of Federation time travel again.
Never.
Until the 27th century.
It is super classified.
Or
like
something.
Deepest level.
They just never
the
talk
entire
about it.
thing was redacted to everyone outside of the high brass. The Enterprise merely just disappeared and reappeared for a time along with the Borg sphere. No one knows what happened. Right? That's the official record.
Yep.
Right? And that's the movie. Like, that's it.
That's it.
Roll
End.
credits. We're done.
And trust us, we could go on and on. We are Star Trek fans. We are huge. I'm sure you've already figured that out.
Figure it out. We're nerds.
But we definitely also realized, again, we listened to all of our own podcasts and we listened back to the Willy Wonka one, and we know that maybe we got a little carried away with our nostalgia.
A little bit.
Maybe
how'd we do this time? Did we go like,
oh, we're good. So the beer we were drinking is Prime Directive by Country Boy Brewing. I gotta say, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Pouring it into the glass, was a little surprised.
Yeah.
It is a double dry hopped.
Yeah,
so
double dry
there
hopped.
was a little bit more
New England IPA.
There was a little bit more stuff floating around than I'm used to. It's fine. It's good. It was a little surprising.
Yeah, just let it settle to the
It was
bottom.
like stars in space.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, I like it. It's pretty good.
It was delicious. Hit us up with what we're doing next time.
What are we doing next one? Next beer is going to be Knuckles Strong Ale from Sawstone Brewing Company.
That is our local, literally our backyard brewing company right here in Moorhead, Kentucky.
Good people.
Always support local if you can, guys.
Yeah, good people, good beer. Can't wait to try this one. I haven't tried it yet. So if you have any guesses for what this beer might have reference to, hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube.
But yeah, definitely make sure you let us know if you have any guesses on what we might be watching or talking about with Knuckles.
Knuckles. That's your clue. Knuckles.
All right, guys. Well, other than that, I'm pretty sure that we're good. We're done. We're out.
All right. Yeah. I don't have a funny quip this time.
What?
The line must be drawn here.